Hi, welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to sync Ableton Live inside Cubase, just the same way as we used to do with ReWire. But now that ReWire is gone, there needs to be a workaround. So all I've done so far is open up my default project in Cubase, and then similarly my default project in Ableton. There are two ways to do it. Let's just add, I'm just going to add a loop, just something at random, I don't know what it is. That will do. Let's just put this in here. Now currently that's playing through Ableton itself. So obviously I don't want that, I want that to come into Cubase itself. So I'm going to route to output 7 and 8, and on my interface there is nothing connected to those outputs, so that means I won't hear anything. If I play this back now, dead silence. Then if I move across to Cubase, I've set up 2 here because I'm going to do 2 instances or 2 inputs. If we go to the audio input, we go stereo in, we choose, let's just make sure we have the input set up. So inputs, let's add a bus name, let's call it Ableton Live. And the buses we want 7 and, well, it's already on 8, so there we go. Now we select those, Ableton Live, and then we monitor that. Go back to Ableton and play this back. And now you can hear it is coming through the input here. I did say that I was going to do 2, and that's because I have 2 buses, or 4 buses actually, but in Ableton I have the percussion bus here, and that's now coming through the percussion bus in Cubase. And I could also do a similar one. I would then need to put this to external out, and then 7 and 8. If I put this back now to 1 and 2, I will only hear it coming out of this bus here, and then nothing is going to the master. I would then do a similar thing here. I would put this to 8 and 9, and then in here on the input I could do 8 and 9. Now at this stage you're asking about MIDI, because at the moment I am manually pressing the button here to trigger that. But the solution to that is, if we go into Transport, Project Synchronization Setup, and then we do Destination, and then we send the MIDI clock. I'm sending it from MIDI port 1, so that is fine. I'll go back into Ableton, Options, Preferences, and then if we click on here, we have MIDI port in, then we have sync, that box is ticked, and all that's connecting those is a simple MIDI cable, and that is coming out of the MIDI on one channel and then into the MIDI on the other channel. You could probably do this with a virtual MIDI cable, but I don't really like installing unnecessary software if I don't need to. So hardware does it for me. The only other thing to do is make sure you click on the external button here. You can see it's receiving MIDI clock by the little dot there. Press external. Now press play on Cubase. Boom. Straight away. Press stop on Cubase and Ableton stops instantly also. I guess just to prove it even further, if we go to Ableton, let's just put, I don't know, Pro Q on, it doesn't matter. Turn this on. Let's take all the highs out. Play this back. So that is the first way. And as you can see, it does work really quite well. The second way is if you don't have a multi-output interface, there is a plugin you can buy from Blue Cat Audio, which is fantastic. It's called Connector. So let's put this on here. We put it inside Ableton, and then we put it also inside Cubase. Then on the one from Ableton, we need to set it to send. We're doing a local host. We need to send audio. We don't send MIDI, so I can turn it off, or it doesn't really matter. Then if we go back into Ableton, click on the one here, and then here, the one in Ableton, we do receive. And then this one, localhost, and you can see that this is receiving from anonymous, and this is sending to anonymous. It always comes up with that name, but we can call it something more relevant. So receive from Ableton perk, and this one we can send to Cubase perk. So now when we play this back, we can just put this back to master, turn the volume all the way down to make sure that it doesn't come out of there. And there we have it. We can see that it's being received from Ableton via Blue Cat connector. I'm just going to change this number to 2020. The reason for doing that is because I have 4 buses, so I'm going to make 1010, 2020, 3030, and 4040. You see that's automatically relinked again. Now let's go down to the Atmos bus here. Let's add another connector. And then back in Ableton, on the Atmos bus here, let's add another loop. That one sounds good. Put this one in there. Atmos, let's add a plugin connector. We want to send to 4040 localhost, and then back on Cubase. This one we're going to receive localhost 4040. Receive from Ableton Atmos. And then send to Cubase Atmos. So these are the two that we have playing in Ableton now. We can put some effects on these. I don't know, let's just pick something. So obviously ignore the musicality of playing that kick and bass with those two random loops. That's obviously not going to work. But the point being that Ableton is now feeding into Cubase, and I can use the best of both worlds. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.